Matty.
I don't know whether we've talked about this before we hit our subject today, Matty Dickinson. They're electric bikes. Are they popular? What are they?
Yeah, electric bikes are actually getting pretty popular. I think the idea of an electric...
I'm talking about, could I get a Cracker 1000 electric or what?
No, they do actually have limitations. One of the limitations...
Oh, don't tell me. They're just little pee-wee things, are they?
They
just
are,
little
but
tiny things.
they're designed to actually have the point where they don't provide extra power to you unless you're pedalling. So if you can just sit there and coast and twist the throttle, then it sounds like a motorbike, and then you've got to be licensed to ride a motorbike.
No,
so
I had one of those. I used to put a card with a peg on a spoke on a wheel.
That's right, and make that beautiful noise.
It was just wonderful. It sounded like I was riding a Quacker. It was terrific.
Yeah, but electric bikes, the idea there is to make it a bit easier for people to commute without getting to work, for example, completely exhausted, having gone up some big hill and sweating all over the place.
Right. But you couldn't do that now unless you had a shower with COVID.
That's true too.
Could you?
No,
are they just as powerful electric bikes? Where do they use them? What, trail biking or something? Isn't it?
No, everything. I mean, I've got I know people that race mountain bikes that in our mountain bike club that have electric bikes racing with them. People do use them for commuting. And again, the idea is that they just will only go up to a certain speed, so you can't go flat out with them. You can't go 60 k's an hour or something. And they're only adding a little bit extra power while you're pedaling. And it just takes away that real grunt when you actually get to a hill and, oh, no, look at this hill. You pedal away and the electric bike just helps you. So it's there to help rather than take over from you.
Oh, okay. What about e-scooters and e-bikes?
E-scooters, yeah, they're very popular, and they do get a bit dangerous because people...
I nearly got run over by one in a square in Auckland.
That's what I mean. People all over the place. They're great for tourists. I've ridden them around the world where you just go up and swipe the QR code with your phone and you pay, I don't know, $1 every 5 minutes or something while you're riding it. But some kids get there and go a bit crazy on them, and people that are maybe just walking along, minding their own business, having a look at the tourist things around, suddenly get knocked over by someone on a scooter. And they do go at a reasonable speed.
Well, they certainly do. I talked to a couple of them that were waiting to get across an intersection on a boardwalk in Auckland, right on the harbour, and they use them just as a normal, like you and I would use a push bike. They're just there. They park them outside in the lobby in the office block, go to work, and they use them to and from around the town. But there are hundreds of them in Auckland, hundreds.
They're a convenient method of transportation, and that whole concept where you can just do that hire, where you pick up a bike or scooter and ride it from A to B and then leave it there, that's very popular in all sorts of places around the world. Not so much here in Australia for some reason, but around the world you can do that in lots of places. So it's a great way for people to commute to work, or for tourists to get around, or just for people to have a bit of fun with.
Yeah, or segways. Segways are fun too. Yeah, or e-cigarettes, but that's another issue.
Definitely another issue.
Oh, and that I tell you what, they puff away in New Zealand on e-cigarettes. They're amazing.
Yeah, no,
really big stuff. Hey, why can't I start my car with my voice?
Well, I think the problem is that they're getting to the point where distinguishing your voice from my voice is not accurate enough to allow you to pick up a car and drive it away. So you can do things around the home where you tell your smart home device to do something, and that's all good fun, and that's fine, but it's not letting someone into your house, for example. It's not letting someone into your car. So being able to distinguish different voices with enough accuracy, and also think of the point if someone had a cold or they sounded a bit grumpy in the morning or it was a hot day so they were a bit flustered, all those differences in voice might be too much for a car, so it didn't actually recognise who you were.
But you can do it, as you say, with that gadget on, play music. You can tell this little gadget on your desk to play music.
And that's not so big a problem because it's not saying, oh no, I can't play music for this person because that might be a major security risk. But getting into a car and taking off is a different issue. You can control things in the car. Once you get into a car, you can control lots of things in the car. You can play music in the car. You can control things in there. But that's already after you've gotten past the security of getting into the car in the first place. But some manufacturers are doing things like near-field devices. So, for example, you can have a mobile phone that knows it's you, and then as it walks up to the car, it says, yes, I recognise this phone. This is owned by Richard Perno. I'll let him into the car. And then once it's gone past that security component, then it says, yes, now I can recognise voice activation in the car to do a whole range of things. But anyone in the car could do that as well once they got in.
Keyless entry, how does that work?
Well, there's a transponder in your actual keys themselves. And it's interesting because they were made mandatory back in 2001. every car from 2001 that's come out in Australia has to have had a transponder. And that transponder that sits in your keys basically communicates wirelessly with your vehicle to say, yes, I know these keys. That's the owner of this car. I'll let the doors open or I'll let the car start. And what's been really interesting from that is that car theft has gone down dramatically. The old scenes in the movies, when someone gets in the car and they rip out a couple of wires underneath and they put them together, you get the obligatory spark and off they go. They're in a car. Well, that can't happen anymore because you rip out the wires and you put a couple of wires together. There's actually a transponder in things like the fuel pump, in the ignition system. So if it doesn't recognise the key in there, the electronics in the car just don't start. It just doesn't go anywhere. So that's actually great for car theft, but bad for home invasions because car thefts have gone down dramatically. Home invasions to steal car keys to then steal a car have actually gone up.
When are we going to be without keys? Is there going to be a day, Matty Dickinson, where we won't have to have keys? I mean, if you don't have to have a key to open your house, do you?
No, and I think that's the thing, that the key in another form, i.e. your mobile phone, will be something that will happen. There was a Ford that came out in America, it was probably 30 years ago, that actually had a keypad entry on the door handle. So you didn't have keys, you came up and you put a code in on the door handle and got in, and it was a dismal flop. No one liked it at all.
Nobody wanted it.
No, it didn't work at all. I can't remember the name of it.
What about something like your card, your FPOS card, and a little keypad that you'd slide that through and put your PIN on it?
I think car manufacturers are always coming up with different ways of making it easy for people to get in and out. But I think that mobile phone thing, because so many people have got a phone, they've got it in their pocket as they walk up, that seems to be where they're headed now. A number of manufacturers are coming up with that concept where they'll just have a mobile phone to let you get entry to your car. You put some details in that phone initially, and once you've done that, as long as it recognises that phone, then it recognises you. So if you get your phone stolen now, you've got all your credit card details on there. People can use it for that. True. You've got your car on there. But again, often you might have Face ID, for example, on your phone, and the only way it will let you into your car is to actually show your face, and then it recognises that, hey, I know this person, let them into the car.
Yeah, they had a problem, they didn't know, with photos. You could put a photo on it of you. You pinched a photo of the owner, and you could make access with a fake photo, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. But they've come up with a solution around that now. They've got a depth camera on the front of the phone now, so that depth camera makes sure it can see that there's some depth in your face. Sure, you can get around that by then going in a 3D model of your head, and then actually someone steal your car that way.
Oh, Matt, it's all too complicated.
Everything you put in place, someone will try and come up with a way around it.
Oh, no, leave him with me bunch of keys and fighting them, dropping them on the ground in the wet, And what happens if you drop your key in the water these days, with the remote stuff?
Yeah, the transponders, most of them aren't waterproof. So most phones are at the point where they're water resistant. You can put them in a small amount of water for a short amount of time. But car keys, typically, no, you're right. You put them in some water, even wet pocket. You're in the rain and you've got your keys in your top pocket, your shirt gets wet, even that can be enough for them.
No, don't like any of that. It's all too complicated, Matty Dickinson. Bring back where I can raid the car and put two wires together. Thank you. Bring back the crank handle, I say, Matt. Enjoy your day. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, mate.